Let's talk about how to improvise over sus chords. I'm going to give you 5 awesome strategies next time you play a song with extended sus chords that you don't know how to blow over. First of all, let's talk about what a sus chord is, and then we'll talk about how to improvise over it. In a normal chord, you've got the root, the third, the fifth, and in jazz, some kind of seventh. So for a C7 chord, you would have C, the root, E, the third, G, the fifth, and B flat, the flattened seventh. That's a standard C7 chord. Now in a sus chord, you take the third and you move it up to the fourth. Okay? You also get sus2 chords, but for the purposes of today's video, we're talking about sus4 chords, which is just abbreviated to sus. Sus stands for suspended. You are suspending the third to the fourth, because typically that suspended fourth wants to come back to the third, like you get in classical music. Like this. In jazz, it's a little bit different because we can revoice those sus chords like you can see down there. Now, a typical way of doing it is to add in the ninth. In this case, it would be D. Then you've got this nice B flat triad over C. Let me just get rid of my sax for a second. You've got a B flat triad over a C bass. So you've got a triad, a tone beneath beneath the root. We're going to come back to that later. And you've got a nice C9 sus voicing. Or you can also add the 13th. And now you've got a B flat major 7 over C, and that gives you a 13 sus chord, which would sound like that. You can kind of rearrange those notes at the top, but that's a typical jazz voicing for these sus chords, either just the triad or the triad and the 13th at the top. That gives you that lovely sound. Now, what scale can you play over it? Typically, you can play the Mixolydian scale, which is a major scale with a flattened 7th. There's the flattened 7th. Right, that's what a sus chord is. Now, for this video, we're not talking about little short sus chords in the middle of another chord sequence. We're talking about those songs like Maiden, Voyage and 81 and lots of other songs where the sus chords are held for a long time. You know, it's an open sus chord. So that's the problem for blowing, not in the context of a 2-5-1 where you've got a sus chord, or a pop song where you've got a sus chord which is only there momentarily. Right, let's get straight into it. Here is strategy 1. Strategy 1 for improvising over an open sus chord is just to use the Mixolydian scale and mix it up, use some patterns, use some motifs, and just stick to the 7 notes of that scale like we discussed just a moment ago. Now, for each of these strategies I'm going to give you, I'm going to demonstrate it over the first 2 chords of Maiden Voyage, but more importantly, I'm going to show you what the greats have done, which is far more valuable than what I can do. So in this case, we're going to look at Wayne Shorter's solo over the Ron Carter tune 81 from the Miles Davis album ESP. This is his final chorus that he plays. Now in this tune, it's a 12-bar blues, but all the chords that you might find in a normal kind of bar blues band, they're all sus chords instead of dominant 7th chords, normal dominant 7ths. So for tenor, it's sort of sus chord blues in G. And if you look at the transcription that you can see there, all the notes are taken from the Mixolydian scale for each of the chords. Let's have a little listen to Wayne playing this. Okay, so that's Wayne playing just the Mixolydian scales for each of the chords. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to loop the first 2 chords of Maiden Voyage, and I'm going to have a go at demonstrating this myself. Now, the first chord in Maiden Voyage for tenor pitch is in E7 sus4. Okay, so that's E Mixolydian, which is actually an A major scale starting on E. And then the second chord is a G7 sus, which is a G Mixolydian, which is a C major scale starting on G. So that's my 2 scales. Let's have a go at this. little pro tip on using this first device of just using the scale is not to noodle aimlessly. Try and incorporate some motifs and shapes and develop little cells of ideas which are going to give your solo more coherence. Is that a word? Coherence. And it's going to sound more meaningful and melodic if you do that. And you can see Wayne Shorter doing that to fantastic effect in that example. Let's move on to number 2. But hey, just before we get on to number 2, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. A large percentage of the people who watch this, in fact, the majority aren't subscribed, and it's going to make a big difference to me if you can subscribe to the channel. So if you're not subscribed, click subscribe right now. Okay, let's go to number 2. Second strategy for improvising over open sus chords is to use the major 9 arpeggio a tone beneath the root of the chord that you are on. Let's take Maiden Voyage as an example. We're going to feature George Coleman's great solo on Maiden Voyage from the Herbie Hancock album, Maiden Voyage, which is probably the most famous sussy song. If there's such a thing as a sussy song. So the chord that we're going to look at is E7 sus in tenor pitch. So what you would do is you would play a D major 9 arpeggio over that chord. Now look at what George Coleman plays on that example. He literally spells out that D major 9 arpeggio and he ripples it across the horn. Let's have a quick listen. Okay, and there's the ripple. Okay, straight up and down that D major 9 arpeggio over the E7 sus chord. So let me have a little go now at improvising over Maiden Voyage. There is a free PDF with these examples. Just use the URL that you can see there and enter your email and it's all yours for free. Pretty awesome resource. Let's move on to number 3. Okay, the third strategy to use when you're improvising over an open sus chord is to use the minor pentatonic scale a fourth below the root of the chord. We're going to look at Mike Brecker's insane solo on Turn the Music Up by the Players Association. And in this case, you can see down there that the chord is A7 sus. You go down a fourth, that is E. So you can use an E minor pentatonic over an A sus chord. And this is what we're going to see Mike Brecker do in pretty dramatic fashion. So let's hear it first of all. In typical Brecker fashion, he goes all in. However, look at the green boxes. You can see that it's all an E minor pentatonic. In this case, Mike Brecker slips in this little bonus, which is to use the C sharp, which is actually the third. Using the third of the chord on a sus4. Yes, you can use the third of the chord, don't you worry. And Mike Brecker does that right here. So he slips in that kind of bonus note because this is a kind of rippling pattern. But all the parts in the green box and with the green brackets are actually just the E minor pentatonic. Now a little bonus pro tip here is that as well as using the minor pentatonic from a fourth down, so we're an A7 sus, that would be E minor pentatonic, you can also use a minor pentatonic from a tone above the root. Okay, so we're an A7 sus, you could also use a minor pentatonic which would be B minor pentatonic in this case. And if you listen to that little short solo on Young Hearts Run Free, you know, there's that 4-bar solo on the sus chord. That's exactly what happens there. So let me have a little go at using, first of all, the minor pentatonic of 4th down over Maiden Voyage. And then maybe I'll do it again with the one a tone above. They've both got a slightly different sound. Now, just so you can hear the contrast, I'm going to use the minor pentatonic scales a tone above the chord root. So E7 sus, now I'm going to use F sharp minor pentatonic, tenor pitch, and for the G7 sus4 chord, I'm going to use A minor pentatonic. Let's give that a whirl. Awesome, so far so good. We're about to move on to the 4th strategy for improvising over open sus chords. Just before we get there, hey, why not go and check out my free Saxophone Success Masterclass? It's a whole bunch of really cool stuff which is instantly going to change the game with your sax playing. Completely free. Fill in your email, you're going to love it. Check out the Saxophone Success Masterclass. Let's move on to strategy 4. Okay, 4th strategy is to use Bebop Language as if it's the 5 chord of a 2-5-1. Now, don't forget, you can go and get the free PDF for today's lesson with all these examples. Just use the link you can see there or click the link in the description. It's yours for free. Have fun. So, what am I talking about here? Right, well, if you've got a sus4 dominant chord, let's say it was G7 sus4, you just treat it like the 5 chord of a 2-5-1. So it would be D minor 7, G7, but you just never get to the C. So any nice kind of hard bop or bebop language that you've got over a D minor 7, G7, you know, like a 2-5-1 in C, you can use right over that sus chord and it's going to sound pretty awesome. So check out what George Coleman does again on the famous Maiden Voyage solo. Okay, this is in the bridge section over F7 sus for tenor pitch. So what he's doing is playing the kind of bebop language of a C minor 7, F7, 2-5-1 in B flat. Let's have a little listen. Absolutely awesome. One more time. Absolutely wicked. So let me play that for you a little bit slower so you can hear it. I'll play that a little bit quicker. So as you can hear, that sounds absolutely awesome over that sus chord. And I'm going to have a little go at doing that now myself on Maiden Voyage. But this time I'm going to be improvising like before on the first 2 chords. Let's see how it goes. Okay, let's now move on to the final tip for playing over sus chords. Strategy number 5 for improvising over open sus chords is to use Bluesy language and to tonicize the chord. Now, there's 2 ways of doing this. You can either make the chord root of your sus chord the actual key and play Bluesy language. So if you have an A7 sus chord, you use Bluesy language in A. Now, first of all, let's deal with that, and then I'll deal with the second one right after. Let's hear Michael Brecker do that again on Turn the Music Up. This is an A7 sus chord. There's a little bit of a lead in, and then I'll tell you when the lick starts. So you can hear him use that lovely bluesy language right over the key of the chord, if you like. Naturally done with Brecker's incredible flair, timing, phrasing, groove, the lot. Now, the other way of using blues language over sus chords is to see the sus chord like the 5 of the key and then play Bluesy language in the home key. So let's say, look at that bottom example, which is Mike Brecker again on Native New Yorker. It's a G7 sus chord. You can treat that like the 5 of C and then play bluesy stuff in C. Let's have a little listen to that. So he's using bluesy language in C there, and it's all, first of all, I'll play it down the octave. Now I'll do it in the altissimo, or I'll try to, like Mike does. Which is kind of like a sort of C major pentatonic-y sort of bluesy phrase that he uses. So let me see if I can replicate this a little bit now on Maiden Voyage. First of all, I'll do the first way of tonicizing and playing blues, which is using blues scales and blues language straight from the key that you're in. Let's see how this sounds on Maiden Voyage. It should definitely be noted that this is more one to do in the pop kind of funk side of things. That doesn't sound particularly right for the genre of this hard bop classic, but I'm just showing you that it works. Okay, now let's do it the other way, where I'm to playing the blues scale of what the 5 chord would be going to. That was really badly explained. So first chord, E7 sus, that would normally be going to A, so I'm going to play bluesy language in A. Second chord, G7 sus, that would normally be going to C. So I'm going to play bluesy language in C. And the bluesy language I'm choosing is more like the major blues scale type language rather than the minor blues scale type language. Get your words out. Okay, let's give it a go. Okay, so that's the 5 strategies, okay? You've just got using the straight Mixolydian scale. You've got the major 7 arpeggio, a tone below. You've got the 2 minor pentatonics that you can use, a 4th down and a tone up. Now remember, you can get the free PDF if you don't want to remember all this. Just go and get the PDF crib sheet. And you've also got 251, Bebop Language, and you've got those choices of using bluesy language from the key, tonicizing the chord itself, or from the key that 5 chord would normally go to. Right, let me see what I can do to weave together all these things in one solo, once again over the 2 chords of Maiden Voyage. See how I get on. before we go, I'd be remiss if I didn't say all this means nothing unless you're playing with good phrasing, good time, good ideas, good groove, good sound, all the things which are going to make your solo sound awesome. All the perfect notes in the world are going to sound irrelevant if you're not playing with awesome phrasing. And actually, I've got the old Phrase Like a Pro t-shirt on today. That is my flagship course covering everything about articulation, phrasing, bends, scoops, half-tonguing, you name it, to help you phrase like a pro, literally, and sound good as you incorporate all these techniques. That's all I've got for you today. Remember to go and check out the free PDF, which has got the examples and all the techniques written out there. You can also go and check out my Saxophone Success Masterclass, which is a 1-hour masterclass with loads of cool stuff, which is instantly going to move the needle. As always, there's a bonus video in the inner circle, plus loads of other really cool goodies. And guess what? I'm just going to drop a little teaser, a little breadcrumb here to save the date for January the 3rd to the 5th, 2025, because I will be hosting the inaugural Saxophone Success Formula live saxophone weekend event at the Royal Birmingham Conservatoire of Music in the UK from the 3rd to the 5th. It's going to be an absolutely insane event. Believe me, we've got so much cool stuff lined up. We've got a special deal on accommodation and all that. So save the date in your diary. January 3rd to the 5th, 2025. And of course, you'll be notified how to sign up in due course. We're getting it all together at the moment. It's super exciting. Okay, in the meantime, make sure that you practice hard, practice smart, and enjoy your music. I'll see you next week. You can also get suspended. Start again. I just bit my tongue. Why do I always bite my tongue? Rubbish. When I first that graphic is wrong. Rising over an open. Now I forgot the name of the song.